interviewing today?
Hi, we're the double gear system. We consist of, hi, I'm Alexis. My pronouns are it, its, and she, her. Up in here, there's also Ava, she, her, and Proto, he, him, or ze, them.
Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Clark. My pronouns are she, her. We are a polyfragmented system, so we have a whole bunch of people inside. But today I will be talking to you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm excited. I used to do the other end of interviewing for some gaming events, and it's always nice to be on like the much less high pressure end. You know, I don't have to prepare notes or write questions. I just sit here and respond.
Exactly. Yeah, nice. Do you want to share where you are from in the world?
Oh yeah. I currently live in Rochester, New York, with my wonderful fiance. There's like a surprising number of Plural people in upstate New York, as we've discovered because of the Pluralgang server, so maybe we'll plan a meetup someday, who knows?
That would be so great to have an in real life meetup, yes. We were at a DID conference actually the other day, so we met.
Yeah, we saw the tweets, it looked like a good time.
Yeah, it was great. So we live in the Netherlands, and we live with our
Nice. Cat's good. Cat's very good.
Right? Cats are the best. So I want to give a short disclaimer up front that we are here with the goal of understanding each other and each other's communities, and not so much to agreement or anything like that. So let's positive experience together in this session.
Yep.
For me, it's like a big bridge to build because I know that so many people are hurt in your community by people from our community, and so I feel a lot of shame about that myself.
Yeah, it's really important to me that we like as a traumagenic system, it's really important that we build a community where everyone's allowed. And so that necessitates taking a really harsh stance against gatekeeping, but yeah.
It's exactly the same for me. So yeah, I've been working on articles and videos around destigmatizing, other types of plural systems and to create the umbrella where everyone is welcome if they want to self-identify
Excellent.
as plural. So it's great that we're both like doing activism and advocacy for this, I think.
I kind of just like stumbled face first into accidentally being a plural celebrity, and we're just rolling with it. I'm just trying to do good, I guess.
Do you want to share a little bit about that? It's called Pluralgang, the hashtag Pluralgang.
Yeah, I can. Here, I will start from the beginning, and I guess we'll get more into this later, depending on what questions you have. But so I realized we were plural on December 1st of 2018. It's actually kind of a funny story. There were a couple factors that sort of led up to me being in the state where I was ready to figure that out, and I can talk about those if you want. But basically, what happened is I had a friend message us and be like, "Hey, is Proto Magical Alt," which is like a meme fake account that another friend of mine runs. "Is Proto Magical Alt your like plural alt?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not plural." And then I started talking with this person about plurality, and I kind of admitted that like I'd always felt sort of like, I guess, like attracted to it. And I was like, this seems kind of cool, It came down to like this moment of like, I kind of wish I had the happiness that plurality has given some people close to me for myself. And then it was in that moment that I realized, oh my God, the way I talk about plurality is exactly the same as the way someone who doesn't know they're trans yet talks about being trans. And I was just like, oh, I guess I'm plural. And so then over the course of the next couple weeks, leading pretty much that entire month, really, leading up to us coming out, basically right at midnight, or just before midnight, on December 31st, we spent a lot of time working out our system. I learned to talk to Proto, and it very quickly became a thing of like, oh God, this is solving so many problems in our life. But anyways, flash forward to I don't remember what the dates were. H Bummer Guy, a big leftist YouTuber, did a big, long, like 50-hour charity stream of playing Donkey Kong 64, raising money for Mermaids UK, a trans charity that a bunch of TERFs, namely Graham Linehan, who is not a TERF, he's not a feminist, he's just a terrible person. Namely, Graham Linehan were attacking, and this was sort of his way of being like, nah, heck you, so we raised money for them instead. This stream blew up and raised like $300,000 and literally had like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on it talking about legitimate government policy while H-Bomber Guy was playing Donkey Kong. And I guess due to being like a relatively well-known speedrunner, H-Bomber Guy had like specifically requested like, hey, if anyone out there knows Proto Magical Girl, get her on this stream. And so we get on the stream, and we'd already kind of decided, like, if we get on, we do want to mention that we're plural because, like, this is good and important and visibility. And there was a running meme on the stream of, like, blank gang. I think it started from teeth gang, and I couldn't tell you what the context of that is, and it just became literally anything gang, you know, Donkey Kong gang, whatever. And so I got on stream and was introducing ourselves, and like, hi, we're a plural system. And then I was just like, shout outs to Pluralgang. Can I get some Pluralgang in the chat? And I was expecting like a couple people, and no, oh god, it exploded.
I guess we should do like a formal introduction for those who don't know us. Hi, we're Proto Magical Girl. We are a plural trans speedrunner. We used to work for Games Done Quick and do a bunch of other speedrunning events and stuff. And yeah, I guess a bunch of people wanted us on this stream. Don't know why, but we're here now.
I mentioned your work. And
oh my gosh, no! What you're the famous.
No,
what?
No, I'm not.
No,
so,
what?
by the way, that speedrun video I made, I've been planning this since then. I got sick twice with different bad illnesses, and got lost in Japan.
You're all famous here.
Everyone's famous.
Actually,
now.
I see some Pluralgang in the chat. Can we get some more Pluralgang in the chat, please? All of our multiples out there, we love all of you.
It's
all three of us to all many of you.
Aw.
Oh, that is some good stuff in the chat. Oh my gosh.
What is that? It never stops. It never gets better. Yeah, I take it back. Yeah, the song was wrong. Donkey Kong 64 never gets better. That's what the song was about, right? Donkey Kong 64.
Person in the chat who said, I've always referred to myself in my head as we, is that normal? No, probably not. You're valid.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It may not be common, but that doesn't mean it's not normal or not.
That's
or
true.
not valid. Yeah.
You might be plural though.
Yeah. Who knows? The definition of normal. We've been talking a lot about this.
It exploded. The chat was nothing but Pluralgang for like 15 or 20 minutes after that. It was absolutely incredible. People were tweeting up a storm. After I'd gotten off the stream, I like found people tweeting #Pluralgang, and it was just like, oh gosh, what have I done? Meanwhile, my Twitter account was locked down because of harassment, so like, it took a little while. I ended up unlocking it later that night because it was like, okay, we're far enough away from that, and this is really important. And, you know, finally unlocked, and I was just like, oh my god, Pluralgang, this is amazing, you're all wonderful. And it just didn't slow down. People are still tweeting in #Pluralgang. I've seen so many people, like, realizing that they're plural. But the short answer really was, I accidentally started a movement.
Right. Well, thank you so much. Like, what you thought up front, like, I'm gonna mention I'm plural, right? So that in itself is plural activism and activism.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this earlier. I'm not like a smart activist. I don't do the discourse. I don't do the policy, the politics, the sociology, the arguments. I just exist. And I'm really bad at not talking about who I am. And so as a Twitch streamer, it has just become sort of my thing that's like, hi, I am queer and trans and autistic and now plural, and I'm playing video games here, and I'm better at these video games than you are, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. Hi, Proto.
Hi, Proto.
But yeah, and that's just sort of how we do our activism. It's just, we just exist, and we're just very, very loud, and we are just incapable of not doing that. And so that has just resulted in a lot of this just sort of stumbling into doing good. But hey, we're doing good.
Yes, thank you so much. Also for sharing your story and how like the history of the Pluralgang hashtag. I think it's great that we recorded this for the purpose of history alone, and many more purposes. But yeah,
Big agree.
yeah, awesome. It's a great hashtag. We've used it ourselves a couple of times.
I make it a point to check it all the time. I try to like fave like every tweet that goes through it. Just I'm keeping it going myself, if nothing else.
So, are you open to explaining what the term plural means in your own words?
Sure. Again, this is not normally what I do. I normally just stumble into my activism, so this probably won't be like the best definition, but plural is basically the state of not being a singlet, of there being more than one, or I guess at least like not one, because sometimes not one single being in a mind, basically. So whether that's like separate beings or a like more complex, fragmented, modular beings, Schrodinger's plurality, are both like a thing. And then, you know, in some cases, like for myself, we're a median system, which is like sort of, there's like one entity and then two sort of like separate half entities that sort of share with me, but are also their own unique thing.
Okay.
But really just anything that is not pure singlet is plural in my estimation.
Right. Yeah. Cool. I will put my definition in here from my original video because else I'm gonna mess it up. But I said something like everyone who is multi-conscious and or is on the dissociative spectrum. Yeah.
The word plural is an umbrella word that we use for everyone who has a multi-conscious experience. This includes people who are disordered and people who are either no longer disordered or not disordered at all, which is very well possible if we look at the DSM-5 and the criteria currently for dissociative identity disorder. Both Brown and the theory of structural dissociation explain that there is a dissociative spectrum. So this is a personal definition, personal video. I'm not speaking for the full community.
Sounds good to me.
If you want to know more about me or the work we do, you can visit the website powertotheplurals.com. You can also find us on YouTube or on Facebook, where we have a support group called Alternation and an empowerment group called Power to the Plurals. My biggest goal is to like gap that bridge between the DID world and the plural world, because I think we need that umbrella.
We are all not singlets. And we might as well share in that very interesting experience. I mean, I feel like most people know they could not. I mean, like with any stigmatized, non-physically presented condition in the most like neutral sense possible, a lot of people just don't know that it's them. I mean, we didn't for a long time, but then as soon as we knew, it was like, yeah, I've been this way since at least like, I have a rough idea of when Proto was created, and it was a lot of years ago. So, like, I can point to a specific event that was like, this is when Proto happened. And it was like when I was 13 or so. And so, yeah, we've been plural for like 7 years. Just didn't know it.
Yeah. Yeah, we also have that. We can point back in time where certain people came from. Is there a difference between plural and DID or OSD, or maybe the disordered variant?
I mean, in my estimation, DID, OSDD, what's the other one? It's like NO something. There's one with an N. Huh?
Yes, DDNOS.
That's the one. Those are all things that more specific plural experiences that fall under the plural umbrella, along with, you know, endogenic systems, with tulpomancy systems, with cryogenic systems, etc., etc. Those are forms or experiences of plurality. It's sort of weird because, like, typically when you have an umbrella term, the umbrella, the unique defining feature is the cause. But that's sort of the opposite in this case, where the umbrella broadens with causes and has the common point of effect. But yeah, it's sort of the common point of effect between DID, OSDD, DDNOS, I almost forgot it like 10 seconds later, endogenic tulpomancy, blah, 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 blah.
Terms down for those who are not familiar with it, and I will either talk with you in a second about it, or we will put out definitions on the screen for you.
So basically, Like I said, we realized we were plural on December 1st. Then, like, a couple days after that, we had a big event, and we were really stressed, and then plurality sort of went under the rug for a few days. There was a nice little stressful period where it was like, I haven't talked to Proto in like a week. I already don't like this, and I'm not even used to it yet. But then, you know, kind of the later half of December, we started learning to talk more. I still remember the first night when we had, like, a real conversation with, like, sentences, like, full tonal, emotional. It was incredible. And so once we got to kind of the point where it was like, this is not that we doubted it was real, but like, this is like important to us now. This is something that is centralizing in our identity. And the more we talk about it and grow with it and experience it, the less we want to hide it. And so then it was literally December 31st. We had a like 13-hour travel day coming home from one of our partner's wedding. We're polyamorous, so.
Nice, that's true.
And so we spent a lot of time on this trip reading, particularly the articles on tulpa.io were really helpful to us because it was sort of beyond the level of like, what is Plurality 101 to here are real experiences of having you and other entities sharing the same brain, which were really helpful to us. And then, you know, that combined with the feelings we mentioned earlier was like, okay, we don't want to not talk about this anymore. And so then we decided we were going to come out before the new year. I'm just like, we're going to start 2019 right with honesty. And so we spend our last layover and plane ride writing a like massive paste bin. Paste bin is basically just like a text sharing site. It is a document, really, just in plain text. We wrote this massive, like several page long paste bin, you know, completely over-explaining stuff and completely, like, underrepresenting how important it was because we were afraid of the singlets. And we can get you the link to that also, but we got home from this long plane trip with this paste bin written on, like, you know, what does this mean? Who are we? What does this mean for you? How do you have to act? Why is this not fake? So on and so forth, trying to really anticipate everything. This was, like, the third time we've come out, like... We're a pro at this point. It's just like, okay, sit down, crank out the paste bin, get ahead of all the questions, drop a bunch of resource links, it'll go smooth. And so once we got home, we went over it with our fiance and was like, hey, read this, does it sound good? We also sent it to one of our plural friends, and with their approval, we posted it, and that was that. Then suddenly everyone knew we were 2, then 2, now 3. But that was later.
How do you deal with rejection or stigma if you've experienced that in your coming out process? As plural.
I mean, usually I just block people and move on. I have more than enough friends and community that support us through pretty much anything at this point. I mean, we've thrown everything at them at this point. We just keep diving deeper and deeper into minority identities. So really it's just like, okay, well, if you're not willing to put in the like 15 seconds of emotional labor to learn how this works, then screw you. I mean, I know that's not like the best answer, but we got tired of playing the emotional labor game after we came out as trans. Once was enough with dealing with all the questions, with dealing the I don't believe you, prove this to me. Once was enough, so we just don't do it anymore.
Fair enough, fair enough. I also make a lot of trans comparisons, and people get mad at me for it. So I'm glad that you, as a trans person, also use trans references, because I see a lot of similarities as well.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about that a little in the paste bin. Like, the reason I realized I was plural is because I was able to compare it to our trans experiences.
Awesome. So that's so interesting. Yeah, thank you.
For us, the most frustrating thing about a singular normative society, probably honestly, just having to deal with explaining things all the time. Like, going back to more trans comparisons, like, when we came out as trans, people knew what that was, basically. And this something really interesting that I've been sort of thinking about ever since realizing we were plural is, like, the ultimate goal, the most common ultimate goal, I'm just going to throw in all the exceptions here. When you're trans, typically you want to be in a state where you blend in. You know, I'm not saying you know, you have to transition, have to get the surgery, whatever, but in general, you want to be in a state where you blend in your more desired quote-unquote normal way. And now that's obviously not true for, you know, non-binary trans experiences. I'm only speaking to my own as a binary trans woman, but plurality is sort of the opposite. Plurality takes you farther away from the expected norm. Once, you know, you can't just like, once you're an out and more functional plural person, just blend in anymore. That's just not an option to you. So for me, the most frustrating thing is like, I don't come out as plural in my college classes because I just don't want to explain it to that many people. It's too much work. I can't just blend in as plural.
Yeah, you need to add a lecture to, like, your coming out. Because
yeah.
Well, they're going to misunderstand anyway, but else are really going to misunderstand. Yeah, I know the problem.
Yeah, go tweet and hashtag Pluralgang if you're plural, endogenic, traumagenic, DID, OSD, DDNOS, and aren't mean to other people.
Anyone accuse you of harboring violent headmates after you came out?
I don't think that was actually one that we got, no. Maybe some people who hate us, but we block everyone, so whatever. There's a lot of people on the internet who don't like us, but I don't care. I mean, but no one that we were like, you know, are or were close with said anything like that.
That's good. Maybe that's also a difference between saying I'm plural or saying I'm DID.
Probably, honestly. Because I feel like the Hollywood stereotype is more associated with the medical terminology, but...
Yeah, just really...
Yeah, I'm kind of glad we didn't have to deal with that one.
Yeah. That's good. That's also, like, maybe a good hack for those with DID who do want to come out, but they're, like, scared about that stigma.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of non-human alters. Including a lot of demons, and so people like assume they are the bad guys, but we also have a lot of angels, and they are like a lot more nasty than some of the demons, so we have to explain that to people, and they like just don't get it. Like,
yeah, I mean, one of our system friends had a persecutor that was a righteous angel. Plurality is weird. Plurality is wild as heck, and I love it. It's just incredible to hear. It's just incredible to us hearing about other systems' experiences, particularly ones that are, you know, polyfragmented and or have like big, vivid headspaces and have these incredibly realistic internal experiences. It's fascinating. Like, it's so cool. Like, for us, we don't really have like an intense visual headspace. There's just sort of like, whoever's in front can sort of tell that the others are or aren't there. It almost in a way feels like there's a little glowy color like a little like sphere of light that's, you know, brighter or dimmer, but you can just sort of abstractly feel a presence, and that's really about it. And so hearing about headspace experiences and like about more complex beings than just, you know, random humans is always fascinating.
Yeah, we actually have a session in this conference where I teach others how to build a headspace with self-hypnosis. So
I might tune in for that.
So we do have a very big headspace. We have around 6 different planets, and then our mainland is a castle where we live, and by now we have a sort of town, I guess the right word is, next to the castle, where some other folks from subsystems live who, well, they wanted to join the castle, but it just got too overcrowded, so we like, build a town next to it, because...
I think it's so cool. I'm high-key jealous, and I think it's so cool.
Yes, well, it sounds fun, but, like, it's hard with time management, for example.
Yeah, that's also true. I have heard about a lot of difficulties with that, but yeah.
We're never lonely, though, so there's that.
I mean, mood.
Right?
That's probably the best part of plurality. It's like, yeah, I have 2 super cool people around more or less all the time. I play video games with Proto, and we make Ava do our homework, and everyone's happy. It's perfect.
That sounds great, yes. We also have someone in our system. Her name is Emma, and she plays The Sims. And she recently started streaming it on YouTube, so she's very happy about that.
Nice.
She's only 12 years old, so we are, like, very careful with, like, what she can do online. But it's going great.
Yeah. Always protect the system littles. They're so good and so pure.
Yes. And especially Emma, she's adorable and she edits all our videos. She's like such a whiz kid. It's amazing. She edits better than me. It's really awkward, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I get lectures on calculus from we have a local system friend who lives like literally across the street, which is like the best. I get lectures on calculus from their 8-year-old headmate, and it's amazing.
Awesome. So another question for you, if you know, is do plurals dissociate as well?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, so this sort of question kind of comes back to how do you define dissociation? But for me, when I've sort of been thinking about how I conceive of what plurality is, you have one brain. And when that brain says this aspect goes with this identity and this, this trait goes with this identity, that is dissociation. You're dissociating things into a separation of some sort. And again, this is not based on like a medical textbook. This is just sort of my assessment of maybe how this works. And so I feel like just by its very nature, plurality is the act of really just like dissociating into separate existences. So the short answer is yes.
Okay. But it's not like, well, for some people, it's not a disordered thing, right? Where they, like, I can have that I stare off into space for hours.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the word dissociation has a lot of contexts, where you have that literal context of de-associating, where you have the more medical, mental health context of what dissociating means and what happens when someone dissociates. And those are separate but related things. I don't think we really dissociate in like the medical sense, we individually, but also we're a trauma-genic system, so shrug. We have dissociated in the past, but that was more due to just like depression.
Right. Yeah, it gets worse with depression as well, for sure.
Yeah, and like dysphoria and stuff, which is always great.
Right. Do you have different gendered headmates?
Yes.
So with that, well, you're trans, so with that comes dysphoria. So it's not really fair.
Yeah, it's been sort of interesting. One particularly interesting, and by interesting, I mean extremely difficult thing that we've been dealing with as a plural system was, in a lot of ways, our personality, interests, want, and self-perception versus ideal self-perception was sort of an average of what we individually wanted until we realized we were plural. In a lot of ways, and particularly the average between me, Alexis, and Proto, very much lined up with our actual body to some degree. Separating us made that a lot harder because, we both wanted completely different stuff now. And tack on Ava, so I, Alexis, I'm a trans girl, and I kind of accept that I don't love this body. I have some better days with it than others. Ava is cis. She will insist that. I'm not going to get into the actual technical ramifications of what that means. I don't care. But she is cis. She despises our body, and it makes it really hard for her to front, which sucks. And then Proto isn't even a girl at all, so he's sort of... He regularly goes by describing his gender as drop table's gender, but has been sort of warming up to the term demi-boy. So yeah, it's been sort of an interesting experience as like a, kind of trans girl meat suit, with a trans girl, a cis girl, and not a girl as headmates. But we find ways to deal. Ava and I went on a big shopping spree a couple weeks ago, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we love shopping sprees.
Mm-hmm.
We went to America, so we got to try all the American foods. Was a whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I have another few questions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have control over your switches all the time, or plural folks in general who might not be traumagenic?
I mean, I can't speak for endogenic systems, but the assessment I have from running a 300-person server filled with all plural people of all walks of life is that the answer is different for everyone. For us, we cannot control them all the time. We can control them most of the time. Particularly we have pretty strong control over like kind of quick pop to the front, pop to the back switches where, you know, if one of us wants to come out and say something or do a quick action and then leave, we can do that pretty voluntarily. But extended switches tend to sort of be out of our control, although I've been doing my best to learn kind of what triggers them and how I can like use that to our advantage. So it's like Ava hasn't been feeling great and she's been sort of hiding. You know, if I can bring her to the front by dressing our meat suit in a way that's going to make her happy and spending time doing stuff that she'll enjoy, that might bring her to the front sort of deal. So not all the time, but some of the time and for certain kinds of switches. And for other people, I don't know, you'll have to ask them.
Right. I know you can speak for everyone, but it's, you know more endogenic people than I do. So.
Yeah, it seems like most of them fall in kind of the similar... in kind of that spectrum of like, yeah, sometimes under some conditions for some kinds of switches.
Yeah. I'm just like trying to find the differences, if there are differences, right? Because there are people who do not agree that we are the same. So I feel like if we can show that there aren't that many differences, then...
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing that we've sort of seen, both talked about and actually seen happen directly, is that a lot of endogenic systems that created alters via tulpomancy or similar processes are actually just actually just traumagenic systems. And they just didn't know it, and they basically created in quotation marks what was already there as sort of like a vehicle for their self-realization. And so it's just like, yeah, we're all much more similar than it would seem, in sometimes very literally.
The ID burden. So in the ID, a lot of people experience child alters, which is linked to possible trauma or intense experiences in their childhood. Do you know if endogenic systems have child alters or?
I believe so. I mean, they're not like, you know, I mean, especially if you're creating them, you know, intentionally, voluntarily, you can make whatever you want. I can't think of a specific system offhand for which that is the case, because again, the server I run is like 300 people in it, and I cannot remember everyone. And I think most of the systems there are traumagenic anyways. It seems like even in these sort of mixed spaces, endogenic systems are rather uncommon. We don't have any. Proto and I more or less share our age with the meat suit. Proto doesn't really strongly tie to the concept of age at all. He's too cool for practical body matters. What's been sort of interesting for us is Ava actually feels like she's older than our meat suit. Like, she would identify as like 30, where our meat suit is 20. And so sort of reckoning with that has been rather interesting. I feel like I, in some ways do, in some ways don't act a fair bit younger than our meat suit, which, you know, could relate to the sorts of trauma that created Ava and Proto in the first place that I mostly experienced. Well, Ava's situation was sort of like ongoing forever. Proto's specific events, like I said, occurred around the age of like 13 or so. But I guess the short answer is no, but like the longer answer is, I mean, kind of maybe. Age is weird.
Yeah, age is weird. Yes, thank you for sharing. Do you have plans to one day integrate your others into one, to become one?
God, no. Oh, God, no. No. We've only been plural for 2.5 months. Yesterday was Ava's 1 month plural day, is what I've decided those are called. No. I am so much happier like this. Like, when we realized we were plural, things clicked into place, and some problems that were insurmountable for us became easily solvable. Some things that about our, you know, stressors and mental health that made no sense suddenly like, oh, it's just this. A big thing that right as we came out as plural, we were kind of on the tail end of a basically 3-month hiatus from streaming, where we only streamed like once or twice. And a big part of why that was happening was I, in quotation marks, had really conflicting feelings on how I wanted to run quotation marks my stream. There was a part of me that wanted the branding and the alerts and the layouts and all the fancy flowery production. There was a part of me that hated all of that and felt like it was fake and disingenuous and disgusting and and then I was like, oh, well, that makes sense now. So yeah, no, I don't really want to combine. We're all extremely different in a lot of ways, even if we are a median system. So no, I'm good. I also just I like Proto and Ava. I like having them around all the time. They're great. So yeah, no. God no. Absolutely not.
Yes, we need her. Can you share what the plural gangs or the plural umbrella, how do you see DID people or OSDD people? Are they welcome under the umbrella of pluralists?
Of course. I mean, I'm a traumagenic system. Most of the staff of the Pluralgang Discord is traumagenic. Most of the membership is traumagenic. There are very frequent conversations about, trauma experiences. We literally have dedicated channels for talking about trauma. There's tons of people with DID and OSDD. If I wanted, I could probably pursue an OSDD 1B diagnosis, but I hate therapists and I just don't want to try anymore. I've tried to find good therapy for my many, many, many issues, and it's just not happening at this point. I've accepted that, but absolutely welcome. Pluralgang is for everyone, unless you think it shouldn't be for someone specific, in which case it's not for you. And no, that's not a redundant statement. That doesn't turn around. We do not tolerate intolerance, and that does not go around in a circle.
Right, yeah. You can self-identify if you want to, but you don't have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. I see it as in the same way. So.
Good.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the objectively right way to see it, so I'm glad you do. There are lots of things that are up for debate and opinion, especially revolving around, invisible, intangible, extremely abstract mental conditions, again, condition in the most neutral sense of the word. But saying XYZ people are not allowed in this community because they're different than me is not one of those things. That is something you wrong, objectively.
Yes, I fully agree. Thank you. So maybe we wanna quickly go over some what your definition of a term is.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I can't necessarily promise super smart definitions sometimes because again, I'm not the smart activist and I have not memorized the plural dictionary, but I can certainly provide perspective.
Cool. Okay. So, in your opinion, what does the term endogenic mean?
Endogenic, it's literally the prefix endo comes from within. Genic in origin, it's a system that comes from within in origin, whether, I guess, created, basically, whether through tulpomancy or, self-hypnosis or really strong intent to just split, whatever that might be. It's a system created within. It is a term that is opposed with traumagenic, but it's not a strict dichotomy. And I know systems with a mix of endogenic and traumagenic headmates, so it's not a strict one or the other as well.
Yes, we also see that a lot in the RAMC world, on which we also have a session in this conference. Can you, in your words, explain what tulpas are?
So as I understand them, tulpas it is one term for, an individual entity in a mind. The one that isn't the original, I think, is specific to tulpas. Tulpas are specifically created through tulpomancy. And, how do I want to explain what I'm trying to say? Tulpas are the same in most ways, I think. I'm speaking from secondhand experience. Are the same as, traumagenically created headmates in the way their existence works, but they're called tulpas just because they were created through tulpomancy, basically. And like other kinds of headmates, they can be complex or they can be for one specific function, whatever that might be.
I always say that tulpas only become a problem if you include spirituality in your discussion. So if you don't look at it from a spiritual point of view, then there shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I know that the term has its roots in Buddhism.
Yes, it does.
Cryogenic, I think, or cryogenic. I think it's usually pronounced cryogenic. This was one I didn't know until I was told it. It literally, the prefix "quoi" literally comes from the phrase "je ne sais quoi," which I don't remember exactly what it means, but cryogenic is basically I don't know, or its complicated origin.
Yes, it was so funny. You said,
and
I don't know what it means because it literally means I don't know what it means.
Yo, nice. Nailed it. Let's go. I also see a lot of people use it for, I lost my train of thought. For basically just like, I don't care to find out. But it's sort of like the third common term of, origin. So endo, trauma, cryo is not quite a catch-all, but it is certainly a catch a lot of things.
Right. Oh, okay. Interesting. Thank you. Do you have any tips and tricks for other plural systems that you would like to share in this video?
So the most important thing that helped me, and this was like I had to totally shift this perspective when I was, particularly once I had realized I was plural, but then had to like kind of go through the process of learning to plural, really learning to have internal conversations. Cause I think in a lot of ways, the brain is not naturally prepared for internal conversation. And this is significant. In a significant portion. This is because our society doesn't prepare us for it. And our society prepares us and teaches us that you're one mind, one body, and anything else is weird and wrong. And so you get so used to acting that way that you could not possibly figure out how to act another way. So learning to have conversations was probably like the biggest, most important, and most difficult step. But the biggest thing I learned was, and this sounds obvious when you say it, but it was not something I really considered until I had it said to me, because we don't see alters typically until we're told, hey, this is probably how you should see this. We don't see, other entities in our minds the same way that we'd see another person in a separate body. But the biggest thing was like, you need to treat whoever this other entity is like another person, like a friend, hopefully. And so the kind of natural evolution is that when you're trying to have those, first of all, just be nice to them. And when I was getting started, trying to figure out this whole plurality thing, I was sort of pinning a lot of fairly negative traits on Proto, and that was extremely unfair because I just didn't know better. And it was just like, you'd think it would be obvious, but somehow it isn't, because we've been trained all our lives to not think it wouldn't be obvious. I just confused myself with that sentence. But anyways, so be nice to your headmates, treat them like friends, and then especially when you're having those early conversations, some questions to ask them that really helped me get the ball rolling with Proto was, the big one was like, what do you want in life? Who do you want to be? And even just like, who are you? You start with those sort of basic questions, but those will start to give you a really good understanding of who this person is and what they want, answering the questions. And then the other thing is like, you have to trust your gut in those early conversations because your brain is not used to having internal conversation like this. And it doesn't know how to like frame it yet. It doesn't know how to make it feel like it's a conversation. At least that was how it was in our experience. It was like, no, I'm just talking to myself. But no, I was not. So when you get an answer, when an answer pops into your quote unquote head, you need to trust it. I think those are the big tips, because I know that was the stuff that was most challenging for me, was really making that early contact and learning to coexist as plural.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's been a while for me. We got diagnosed in 2012 with the ID. So that's also when I guess our process started a little bit before our diagnoses, but yeah, it's a long time for me, so it's hard to remember sometimes how it was when we just started out. So it's very nice to talk with you and to hear your perspective.
Yeah, go tweet and hashtag Pluralgang if you're plural, endogenic, traumagenic, DID, OSD, DDNOS, and aren't mean to other people. And if you want to find more of my content, I'm on Twitch and YouTube as Proto Magical Girl, Twitter and Instagram as PrincessProto. Come join the Pluralgang Discord server. Oh gosh, I don't know where a link to that would be. The link does exist here. I'll give it to you.
Yes, we will also put the links in the description.
Yeah, so join the Pluralgang server with the link that is a bunch of random characters, discord.gg/something. That's a really good place for plural people. We're trying our best to make it the best place it can be. If you like listening to me talk about stuff like this, I also have a podcast called Setting the Record Queer, where we talk to cool queer people about the cool stuff they do. Okay, I think that's enough plugs.
If you want to know more about me or the work we do, you can visit the website powertotheplurals.com. You can also find us on YouTube or on Facebook, where we have a support group called Alternation and an empowerment group called Power to the Plurals. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I am gonna stop recording.